As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And welcome back, Obscurians, to another episode of Obscurity Now, the show that takes a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media. Then we decide if they should be remembered for all of human history or tossed into the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve, and I'm one of the hosts, and with me, he's the only attorney who specializes in cartoon law. It's
Yahel. How are you doing, Steven?
I'm doing great, and I'm gonna really need you to defend me in an upcoming case just involving cartoon law. Yeah, it's we can't really talk about it on air, but I'm just letting you know ahead of time.
Okay, sure.
But I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Steve. I've had my OCP breakfast.
Super Flakes.
So I am
the Super Flakes.
Yeah, Super Flakes. Thank you. That's what it's called. A Super Flake is what some women I've dated in the past may refer to me as. But
or they refer to me as, "Hey, you over there by the bushes." Oh. No, all right. So yeah, today is the last episode of Robo-vember, part 4 of 4, if you will, and we are discussing a seemingly random episode of the Robocop TV show, guest starring Roddy Piper. One of my favorite wrestlers, and sort of one of
you're obsessed with him. You're
obsessed. I mean, I would say
if he was alive, you would have a restraining order.
I'd say he's up there on my Mount Rushmore, though. Him and Sting and Flair, and I've never really thought about the fourth one. Huh?
And another Roddy Piper.
well, what are your thoughts on Roddy Piper?
I don't know. He's great. He's great. I mean. I like him a lot. I wish he would have done more TV and film, because I think he's a pretty fun character actor.
I think there's more out there than you realize, because there's so many like Canadian like direct to like Cinemax movies and B movies that I don't think it's possible to watch them all. But we're gonna try.
Well, maybe next year we'll have a Robo-vember or something.
Well, I've been thinking that when WrestleMania rolls around. For that month, we should watch nothing but movies starring wrestlers. What do you think of that?
Okay, I'm fine. I have thought of suggesting like a month of just Hulk Hogan movies and or TV.
You could take that too, sure. Absolutely. But, we've already done so many.
We've only scratched the surface.
It's true. It's true. So should we? Before we dive a little deep into Robocop, I have to mention that there are only 4 days left of the Escape to Earth Kickstarter. Escape to Earth is the comic book I wrote. We're on issue 3, which we're trying to kickstart right now. And if I remember, I will play a promo for the comic at the end. It's a fun time. Lots of action and adventure and dinosaurs. Everyone's favorite who grew up in the 80s. But
surprisingly, no Roddy Piper erotica.
Well, there's
I don't know if that was a rights
there's
issue
pros in the back. Like I call it the fanfic section, and it's or Roddy fic, if you will. But Rodfic, there, even better. So are you ready to dive a little deeper into Robocop TV show?
Let's do it.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
All right, first question first. Have you ever watched a single episode of Robocop the TV series?
I don't think so. In fact, I'm very sure I didn't, because I did not recognize this guy playing Robocop at all. I do remember seeing commercials for it and just thinking it didn't look great. But I was like 13 or whatever. This is like around season 6 and 7 of TNG, so I had bigger fish to fry, if you will. I had bigger phasers to
sodomize,
set to stun. I don't know.
Bigger face.
I had another bald middle-aged man in my life already.
Oh man, that would make an interesting team up. Captain Picard and a Robocop. Now there's some fanfic for you there, buddy.
It wouldn't surprise me if there's a crossover comic.
Yeah, right? Yeah, there's some weird ones. I don't even think I mentioned back when we were reviewing the Robocop comic book that there is a free comic book day Robocop Stargate SG-1 crossover comic book. Like, what a weird crossover. I don't really see how that could work, but
yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe we want to do a whole month of it, but we could definitely do like weird crossovers, comic book crossovers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There is a Star Trek X-Men crossover.
I remember it. Yeah, I didn't read it, but I remember it happened. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a few of them because there's like one with the original series, and I know that there's a TNG one. And I've never read them, but I don't think that they're like tied in together. So I guess one was so successful, Steve.
But I think they're ignoring the Prime Directive, though, and that's if Professor X and Captain Picard like shake hands, then the world implodes upon itself. Like, didn't you know that?
I think you're thinking of Time Cop.
That is Time Cop, but I don't know how it works with when one actor plays, two iconic like characters from science fiction. But I have a feeling that's what would happen.
No, you can even kiss yourself. It's fine.
Right. Oh, man, what was I watching?
Little time smooch is what it's called.
Last night I was hate watching the new Simpsons Halloween episode, and it's terrible. Don't watch it. It's not funny. But there's an episode where Homer's burp like becomes, I don't know, toxic, and he turns everyone into in Springfield into him, and including Marge. And he like opens the door, and you think he's gonna be horrified, but he's like, "Oh, Marge, you're beautiful," and he starts making out with her. So technically, he's like making out with himself. So really disgusting stuff. That's what it reminded me of. And that's what passes as a comedy these days on The Simpsons. Anyway, so all right, RoboCop the series lasted for one season, 23 episodes, and the series premiered March 14th, 1994 in Canada and the U.S. And yes, much like Prime Directives, this is Canadian produced. In fact, they were trying to get the lead here, whose name is Richard Eden, to be RoboCop and Prime Directives, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. And we got, what was his name again? The Hitchhiker.
I don't remember.
His name will come back to me. Yeah.
I think the other guy from the RoboCop Prime Directives was a better visual.
I agree.
Had a better look for RoboCop, but this RoboCop moves better. But neither move as well as the original.
Right. Like, it's weird because I feel like we probably should have done this one first, because this RoboCop compared to the other versions that we've encountered, it's kind of boring. he's like not flawed enough. Like, say what you will about Prime Directive's RoboCop, like, he's too short, he's got a weird voice, and he's always like crying and stuff. But you'll never forget that. Like, the TV series one is so slow. And anyway, we'll talk more about him in a second. But we were talking about which episode we should cover of this, and of course we usually like to do the pilot, but like we already watched one RoboCop TV pilot in Prime Directives earlier, so we're trying to figure it out. And I don't know how I ran across it. I guess it was when I was doing my research for this, and I was like, what? Roddy Piper met RoboCop?
I assume whenever you're doing any research, like, you just add "and Roddy Piper" to your search string. Like, you'll be like, "Oh, Street Sharks and Roddy Piper."
Too bad he wasn't.
Piper question mark and Roddy. Just in the hopes that Roddy Piper will somehow be attached to the
I see
prop
you're
somewhere.
familiar with my research methods. Please don't tell anyone
Yes.
else. That's how they actually research stuff in NASA.
Well, it's the authorities let me know about it, Steve.
That's why we don't podcast in real life, because I'm not allowed within certain city limits of things. But anyway, so yeah, we decided on season 1, episode 14, RoboCop versus Commander Cash. And this episode premiered July 4th, 1994, and here is a synopsis. Children are rioting and stealing all over the city as RoboCop faces his most formidable opponent, a nutcase who believes he's a real-life version of OCP's superhero, Commander Cash. And this is directed by Alan Eastman, no relation to Kevin Eastman, who created the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm sure you were all thinking that. I know you were thinking that, Yahel.
I actually was wondering.
No relation. And I don't want to steal your thunder here, buddy, but we have a Star Trek connection here because Mr. Eastman directed both a DS9 episode and Voyager, and the aforementioned Stargate, which has no relation to Star Trek. But more importantly, even more important than Sliders and Tech War, which he also directed, he directed an episode of the Ultraverse character Nightman. I know you're excited about that.
You really did your homework there. Yeah, he's actually the only Star Trek connection. Unfortunately. He directed 2 pretty good episodes of Voyager, though. I'm not sure which one he directed of DS9. But
all right, I'm gonna go ahead and run it. I'm so proud of myself. Here we go.
Ah! Oh no! We've just entered another Star Trek connection! Ah!
All right, and continuing on. One thing I would like to mention. He directed an episode of Dracula the series. Do you remember Dracula the series?
I can't say that I do.
Basically, it's exactly what you think it is. Just a group of vampire hunters trying to take down Dracula, who's like a businessman or something in current day. We might need to add it to the list. But I do like the fact that we have another Tech War connection, because we had one last week when we were reviewing the RoboCop comic. Remember that? Remember that, buddy?
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like there's been quite a few.
Yeah.
Tech War connections. Like we could probably just start doing Tech War connections.
We're just going to be a Tech War podcast from here on out. All right.
Like, I don't know. I'm kind of excited about doing Tech War.
No, me too. But I think we're going to come out of the gate swinging in January with Tech War. It's a tech battle.
We might have to do a whole Shatnerverse.
Oh, absolutely. So we have dual writers here on this particular episode of RoboCop. One was just not enough, and I believe I don't know if they were a team, possibly married at one time, but it's the writers are Denny's McCoy and Pamela Hickey. You ever eat at Denny's McCoy? Yeah.
I can't say that I have.
Right. But anyway, they have worked on all of these shows together. Tiny Toons Adventures, The Real Ghostbusters, DuckTales, Cops, Fighting Crime in the Future Time, the Beetlejuice animated series, and of course our previously covered Biker Mice from Mars. So that's about it for me. Who were some of the thespians who performed in this episode of RoboCop?
All right. So first up, we have the man that plays Alex Murphy / RoboCop, Richard Eden. He's got a real weird list of credits to his name. Like, he was in something called Some Mothers Do Avum. DO'_AVE'_EM.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this some sort of like French Canadian produced like local film or something.
So it was a TV series, and I believe you're right about the production, though. But the weird thing is, like, from the description, it just sounds like a knockoff Mr. Bean. It just says Accident-prone Frank Spencer fails to navigate the simplest tasks of life while also trying to look after his wife and baby.
Now,
So I don't know. I just thought that was
yeah, I
weird.
mean, I've never seen Richard Eden in anything else, but having only see him play RoboCop, I can't imagine this guy doing comedy.
You don't remember him from his episode of Silk Stockings?
Only Silk Stockings Jr., of course.
There it is. There it is. But yeah, no, he's been in a bunch of stuff. He was also in an episode of Earth Final Conflict, which comes up just about as often
Tech
as
War, sure.
Tech War. I feel like, but and then the only, I mean, he's really been in nothing like
Right.
of note though, or at least where his part was of note. But I did notice that I can't remember what TV series it was, but he had a character that he played with the coolest name in the '80s, Brick Wallace.
Oh, nice.
So I think that was the soap opera. But anyways, he's this week's crappy RoboCop. Then we've got Yvette Nipar, Nipar. Maybe it's Nipar. I don't know. She is playing Detective Lisa Madigan. She was in 21 Jump Street for a few episodes, like the original show, not the
movie, yeah.
the movies or whatever. The last thing she did was Walking Tall, Lone Justice, starring religious fanatic
Kevin Sorbo.
and exactly Kevin Sorbo.
Right. We're gonna have to watch that someday.
We really are. How do you go from pool boy to? Well, I mean, it's all a grift for him. I'm sure
Right.
he's just like milking these religious people for all they're worth, you know. Anyways, Kevin Sorbo, he's insane, and that's the last thing she ever did. So kind of weird that she did the 2 Kevin Sorbo Walking Tall movies. That's right, folks. There's 2.
Are you trying to imply that like Kevin Sorbo like made her quit the business? Is that what you're implying?
Yes.
All right, I'll buy it. I'll buy it.
All right. Then we've got David Gardner. He's playing the OCP chairman. He's been in a bunch of stuff, but again, like nothing where he had like a huge part where, you know, you would remember him from it. He hasn't done anything since 2010 when he was in something called A Wendigo Tale. What's your favorite scene from A Wendigo Tale,
where
Steven?
the Wendigo goes, "Arrgh!" and then
yeah,
David
that's a good one.
Gardner
All right, then
runs away and screams. Yeah.
We've got Sarah Campbell. She plays Gadget, the child, and every time they said her name, I just kept thinking of Gadget from Rescue Rangers.
Oh, I was thinking of Inspector Gadget, but I mean, hey, we always have Gadget from Rescue Rangers on our mind. Am I right?
Yeah. So she didn't do a lot of stuff, and we're just gonna move
All
on.
right.
Then we've got Roddy Piper, Steve's the object of Steve's affection.
I love how any
obviously-
wrestler I like, from Sting to Roddy Piper, I'm just obsessed with. I can't just be a regular fan.
Well, I've heard that you have told your wife that the Roddy Piper mask stays on.
Oh, you bastard! Luckily, she doesn't.
You know what I mean.
Luckily, she doesn't listen anymore, so that's not getting edited out.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I was just gonna assume that you were the one wearing it, but wow.
You're still
Thank
a
you for the
bastard.
confession.
You're still a bastard. All right.
So he's been in quite a few things. Obviously, probably best known as a professional wrestler. I think They Live
yeah.
is probably his best known film or non-wrestling thing. But yeah, I think it would be a toss up these days between They Live and his appearance is in It's Always Sunny.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
sure.
I think a lot of people know him
For the
from that, too.
normies. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Anyways, moving right along, we've got Barry Flatman. He plays Simon Atwater in a
His name
very
is Barry
campy, over the
Flatman.
top.
He's a very flat man. Didn't you hear?
Anyways, he was also in Earth Final Conflict, by the
nice.
way. And Tech War, I believe. I saw earlier. Yep, he was in an episode of Tech War. But yeah, he's one of these guys that he's been in a ton of stuff. Like I recognize his face, but I mean, you know, I couldn't pick his name out
I
of
feel like
a lineup. Well, now I
most of these people are that way.
Yeah, this is like a cast of, typical working actors, but they're all like
Yeah, in
mid-carders.
Canada, it's just like, ooh, we can't shoot RoboCop like in actual Detroit. Let's take it to Canada where we can get everyone who, work for like half the amount of money and tax credits. All
Yeah,
that
they just work for just throw a couple of loons. What are they called? Loonies their way. What do they
for
use?
money, or
Yeah, don't they have a coin called a loony?
I've never heard of that. I was gonna say they work for syrup and poutine.
So they have there's a Canadian coin called a loony, and it looks like there might also be a toonie.
Actually,
So yes,
they are working for.
I just wish we were a little more
They're
cultural.
working for locks of Bret Hart's hair. That's what they're working for.
That's why he can never like cut it short.
Exactly.
He has to just keep the Canadian economy alive. All right, moving right along, we've got Lisa Howard, who plays Brittany, another kind of over the top, campy, silly performance. Guess what she was in, Steve?
Silk stockings.
Earth Final
Oh.
Conflict.
Dang it.
All these people were like
Yeah,
in Earth Final
right?
Conflict, which is kind of funny. But she was like in 49 episodes, so that might be the whole series or most of it. And I've seen a few episodes of Earth Final Conflict, and I'm guessing that's where I recognize her from. But she was also in Valley of the Dolls, which is I think where like she kind of and Days of Our Lives. She had like a shit ton of episodes there, so I think those are like her three big things. Anyways, and last but not least, I want to mention that we've got Matt Cook, who plays Barry Lehman / Commander Cash. So, but Roddy Piper plays.
Well, he was the
Cash.
Commander Cash at the very beginning, the one that Roddy Piper
Oh, okay. He's the
Yes,
original Commander
yes.
Cash that Roddy Piper,
stole the suit from.
ties up, and he's like Matt Cook lived out your fantasy. He got tied up by Roddy Piper. His clothes were removed from him by Roddy
Matt,
Piper.
call me. I want to hear all about it.
Anyway, so yeah, he's got a very small scene, but another guy that's in a bunch of stuff but you don't know him.
Right.
And that's pretty much the cast that I felt was important for this
And
episode.
I agree with you. Although the store manager was played by Keith Knight. They call him KK for short. I just think that's a fun name, Keith Knight. But anyway, shall we
Okay.
dive into the episode?
Yeah, let's get into
All
it.
right, so we are outside. It's daytime, and up on the screen it says, "Time, the near future. Place, Detroit." A fancy limousine takes a turn in the street, and inside the limo we see Atwater, the head of OCP. In the movies, he's called the old man. Here, he's just called the chairman. I guess they thought old man is too insulting or something. They don't want to be ageist.
Yeah.
And then there are two kids and Atwater's assistant, and they're watching like a commercial on the TV that's inside the limo. That's how fancy they are. Because back in the 90s, well, I guess this isn't technically the 90s. Should probably mention that the series, much like Prime Directives, it takes place like 6-7 years after the first movie, and it ignores RoboCop 2 and RoboCop 3, if anyone was keeping track. So these two kids are wearing.
Well, but it is technically the 90s because this series.
Oh yeah,
Oh, you're saying that because the series came out in 94.
right. Well, at first I was referring to our timeline, and then I was like, wait a minute, are they even in the 90s? It's a
Yeah, because RoboCop came out in
right.
87.
So
The first
technically,
movie, so
yeah,
this is 6-7
this
years
is
later.
the 90s.
Technically, mathematically.
Yeah, right, exactly. So anyway, these two kids are wearing 3D glasses. They watch a commercial on TV. It's a very well animated commercial for Commander Cash Superflakes, and the Mr. Atwater says, the chairman, he turns to Atwater and goes, "Are these your kids, Atwater?" And he's like, "No, sir. These are your kids." And like the OCP chairman gets all, what? Yeah.
What?
He like gets the vapors for a second, and then Atwater's like, "Oh no, these are just actors playing your kids." Well, what the hell is going on here?
I don't know. See, like, what happened when everybody got in the limo? nobody explained why these children are there to anyone, and everybody's just assuming that they're each other's kids and just along for the
It's
ride.
so weird. Like if they could have made this make sense if they were like on their way to some sort of like PR event where he wanted to show off that he's like a all around family kind of grandfathery type, but it's just like, oh no, I just Atwater is just like, no, I just hired these kids to hang around, which is really really weird.
Well, it's weird because he's like, I hired these kids to be your grandkids. Like what? Just like
Hang
in
around?
life, like 24/7.
It's
Like,
so weird. It's so weird, but like I get it. They want the opening image to like reinforce their theme of what's going on.
but also this implies that these kids have been hired to play the son and daughter of one of Atwater's real
no,
kids?
not Atwater. The chairman. The chairman.
Or
Yeah,
I'm sorry, the chairman. Yeah, the OCP chairman. So I mean, I don't know. It's very weird, but like everyone's like plays it so campy, and everyone plays it for what it is, like ridiculous. So if it works, oddly
You
enough.
definitely have to suspend your disbelief. I would say not just with this episode, but with the entirety of the RoboCop TV series, because I've tried to rewatch the pilot a couple of times, like before we were like doing this show, just because it was like on Tubi or whatever. And it's just so jarring, as you're going to see as we move forward in the episode. You've got RoboCop, who I grew up like watching mow guys down with his massive gun, but he doesn't shoot anybody in this because it's for kids. And he brings out his huge gun, and you're waiting for him to blow guys away, but instead he just like shoots a little tracker thing on him. Or I mean, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Like I had put in my notes that I've seen more violence in an episode of Care Bears than I have in this. Like this is basically like this is RoboCop in the style of 1960s Adam West.
Oh,
Batman.
100%. Oh, man, that's going in a TikTok for sure.
And spoiler alert, I think it kind of works.
Yep.
At least this episode. I mean, I don't know
All
about
right.
the others.
Well, I'm say no more. We're gonna move on. So Atwater says the cereal is selling like hotcakes, and then they basically continue watching the commercial, and then we cut to RoboCop in a slightly different police cruiser. This time it's not a Taurus anymore. This time it's a Mustang. I don't know. I feel a need to mention that. Looks same color though. Looks pretty decent. But anyway, he's pursuing this large truck, and then they end up at a monster truck rally, which I thought was kind of cool. He exits the car.
You're from the South, so you would think it's kind of cool. I get it.
It makes sense. I'm surprised they even allow monster truck rallies in Canada. I figured they'd be too loud or something.
Yes.
But he exits the car, and you're ready to watch Robo beat up some thugs or something. And he opens the truck door, and it's kids at the steering wheel of the truck, and you're like, what? And that's basically the cold open. What did you think when you saw who was piloting the truck?
Yeah, so you're talking about like the van where like that was stolen.
Yeah, it's like a U-Haul truck or van, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like one of those like econo vans
exactly.
or whatever. I thought it was a pretty good, decent little cold open. It made the show like I will say this feels for the 90s. Obviously, it's not going to be like prestige TV like these days, but it feels like a big budget show. Like it comes off pretty, pretty well done. And I mean, I like the cold open. I was looking forward to RoboCop shooting these kids. But,
I knew it.
Nope.
I knew it. I was like, oh man, Yahel's gonna love this episode because he hates kids so much.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, kids are the bad guys. We should lock them all up. Which they do start to do. They start like processing the kids when we come back from the opening theme. What did you think about the theme song?
Oh, I was just about to ask you that. Yeah, I like the fact that it is a sort of a reworking of the original movie theme.
Yeah, it's like a variation.
Yeah, very. I'd say brighter. More almost sort of, as you said, Adam West Batman, I'd say super heroic, if you will. Like,
Yeah, like almost A-team
yes,
ish.
100%. Yeah, it's a very, very bright, but I enjoyed it for the most part. And you actually get clips, of a couple clips from the movie in the opening, which I also enjoy. And of course, after it plays, we cut to a media break, and they are reporting on the cops arresting 8-year-olds all over Detroit. And then we get an interview with Atwater, who we find out is the creator of Commander Cash. And who do we have here? I see we have Creative KB up. A half hour late is a half hour full. No fear. Good.
So Creative KV's in the chat for those that are on audio only. And if you are audio only, you should be joining us live on almost every Sunday. Lately, we've been like doing the live ones at around 3 p.m. Eastern time, but sometimes we do them at 6. We really need to settle down on it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And if you're just joining us for Robocop content, you should still subscribe, just so we can let you know if we ever cover Robocop again.
Just for that.
Absolutely.
But you can participate in the show in the chat. We do our best to keep up with the chat, which usually it's pretty easy to keep up with.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so the kids are getting processed, which I just thought was hilarious that they're like processing the kids. So I do like that, even though, like I said, this is very much like Robocop if it was 1960s Adam West kind of a version of it. Like it still retains some of that comedic dystopian future of the movies.
Yeah, they have the satire in here. It's definitely not as in your face as in the movies, but you have seen RoboCop 2, right? Do you remember? You remember the scene where he goes in and like the kids like T-ball team is like robbing a hardware store, and like RoboCop has to apprehend them. Do you remember that scene?
I don't remember that. No, I mean I probably haven't seen RoboCop 2 since I saw it in theaters.
Wow. I should have told you to rewatch it for this, but anyway, too late. We're almost done.
Smoke Monster is in the chat as well. He said Robo Yo. Hello, Smoke. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, man. Everyone's showing up. 2 people. But yeah, all right. So let's see. No, all right. So yeah, now we cut to the Robo Lab. You know, the place where he's always sitting in his chair. This time he's got the male lab tech. His name escapes me at the moment, but he's just sort of sitting there, and then Officer Madigan comes in, and she's ranting and raving about having to process all these kids and then having to deal with their parents. I don't know. I would say definitely a future cat owner. What do you say?
Yeah, for sure.
And then she also mentions that she has to go to the OCP Omni Ball to take the captain's kid to see Commander Cash. Like, I don't know why it's an officer's duty to do that. I mean, I guess in the show, she and the captain are friends or whatever, but then RoboCop mentions that he's going to be there too for crowd control, because I think that is the best use of your $1 million cyborg for crowd control.
Yeah. And by the way, so at this crowd of children, there's no parents.
Like, we haven't gotten there yet, but yeah, you are absolutely right.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense. So at the very end of the scene, Gadget shows up, and then she blows up this bag of guts, which I forgot to mention is one of the commercials that the kids are watching in the limo. It says that I guess the cereal comes with a free bag of guts. I don't know. It's kind of funny, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the plot, I guess. I'd say it's more of one of those sort of robo-satirical things. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm sorry? What do I think about what?
The bag of guts?
Oh. Yeah. I didn't get that as a toy because it just like explodes and gets fake blood everywhere.
I think it's there for the kids who are watching.
But I mean, Yeah. I mean, it's funny, but it like makes zero sense. Which I mean, we could say that about so many things. In
And
this
we will,
episode.
and we will. So, cut to, we're at a massive mall, and they have a theme park indoors. I think that's probably, I can't remember the name of that huge mall in Canada, but I know they had like at one point they had one of the largest malls in the world with like an indoor theme park.
The Bret Hart Wayne Gretzky shopping,
That must be it.
I believe. Is
That
what it's
must be
called.
it. So OCP, this is so random. The OCP chairman and Atwater ride on a kids train and like discuss sales or something. Which, I mean, I think it's funny because they could have just had them, walking around like in the sort of typical way. But the director was like, "Nah, you guys are gonna ride on the kids train."
That's right, and they're like so close
it's so
together,
awkward.
like their thighs are practically like chafing each other.
Yeah.
Like
And then we see like the POV of someone entering Commander Cash's dressing room. Then we cut back to the chairman. The chairman sends one of his lackeys over to ask Robocop to pose with. No, chairman himself asks Robocop to pose with Commander Cash. Of course, Robocop doesn't want to do that because he's all about the work, but he does anyway. Then we see someone tie up the actor who's going to play Commander Cash and steal the costume. And
again, living out your dream of being tied up by Roddy
thank
Piper.
you for mentioning that again. Yes, thank you.
Well, it was important to me that the chat that missed that at the beginning. So,
no.
for those that missed it, Steven has a little bit of a
I
obsession
am a
with
big
Roddy
fan
Piper.
of Roddy Piper. That's all there is to it. Nothing more. So Commander
Okay.
Cash arrives, and he and RoboCop shake hands. Then Commander Cash addresses the crowd of kids from a podium, and he tells the kids that everything is free to take what you want. So the kids like basically riot and steal everything. Unfortunately, Yahel is thinking, unfortunately, RoboCop can't shoot the kids because of his prime directives. So he pretty much just stands there looking impressive, holding his gun. Then Commander Cash picks up Atwater and throws him off the stage, and he tells RoboCop to arrest Atwater because he's in violation of cartoon law. And this is our first mention of cartoon law. What did you think about when you heard that phrase?
Boy, I became very worried about the rest of this episode when he said cartoon law. And yeah, RoboCop also does like a database search for cartoon law, and
Right.
like,
No
nothing
big
comes up.
surprise.
Yeah, shocking. By the way, Creative KV said in the chat that he watched like one RoboCop clip on YouTube, and now like the YouTube algorithm suggestion is Robo inflated, like it's just like
Well,
Robo
I hope
all the
they're
time.
suggesting these episodes, but I mean, you've already heard them all. So anyway,
But yeah, I was a little worried as to where this was gonna go at this juncture. Yeah, and then this isn't where RoboCop tags him actually. How is it that he gets away again?
this is
the
the
commander,
jetpack,
whatever.
I think, is what happened.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
So
He jetpacks his way through the roof of the mall, and we get the roof of the mall is like glass, and we get some like very bad CG glass that like falls down as he breaks through it.
So this is our first time seeing Roddy as Commander Cash. Like, what'd you think of his performance?
Oh, Piper's great in this. Is that what you want to hear, Steve? Oh, Piper's
I want to
so
hear your
good.
unabashed truth, your opinion.
No, Roddy
Yes.
Piper is good.
I
at
mean,
this.
I was surprised he, sometimes his like accent, his like Canadian accent, like leaks through in a lot of his performances. It only happens like once or twice in this one. He does a great job playing. I mean, I remember in the 90s, there was a trope going around of like insane like superhero characters. But yeah, he does a great job with this one. And yeah, after he jetpacks out of the mall, which I was just like, I think I'm going to like this episode after he jetpacked his way out. I was like, why are there no parents? Because the kids are just going nuts. RoboCop is just standing there, and there's Atwater and the chairman. Yeah, there's no parents. Like, is that how things are in
Yeah,
Canada?
I guess that's cartoon law. I don't know what to tell you, Steve. But yeah, like the commander says, oh, everything's free. The kids go crazy, and the only people that are there to stop them are like 10 cops and Robocop, who's dying to shoot these kids, but he can't. Creative KV in the chat said that also YouTube keeps sharing our Care Bears video and a bunch of other furry content.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Our very violent Care Bears video. Yes.
Yeah. Roddy Piper in this costume is kind of the equivalent of a furry Roddy for Steve.
Oh, God, that's awful. Maybe accurate. I don't know. I'll think about that.
Oh, I'm sure you'll spend a lot of time thinking about it.
So now, what?
But yeah, I will say though, just one thing about Roddy's performance. His performance, like pretty much everybody else's, with the exception of RoboCop, of course, is pretty campy,
100%,
pretty over the top.
Especially Atwater, as we're going to see.
Atwater becomes like more and more like over the top, like, and he starts off, I would say, like at a 7. So he's already starting pretty over the top. And by the end of the episode, he is off the
he's
scale.
Basically up there with like the animated Cobra Commander, like Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Anyway, you'll see. Okay, so we cut to, we're at Officer Madigan's, and she's chastising a Gadget while they watch more Commander Cash commercials. And I've got to mention this before we continue any further. How fitting is it? Now, you've seen They Live, right? And you know the whole premise with the glasses and everything. And now here Roddy Piper is again. This time, it's basically he's in an episode that's all about like mind control for kids, and they do it with 3D glasses. How fitting is that?
Yeah, they probably weren't thinking about that, but I can see how you being obsessed with
and
Roddy
John
Piper.
Carpenter and the movie They Live, for sure. Which go ahead.
Well, Steve, how would you describe Roddy Piper's Commander costume? It's
costume. Very cartoony. I mean, to look like the cartoon that we watched at the beginning, it's like aqua green almost, or teal.
Yeah, it's like
the worst colors. I really don't like.
With a purple
I would
cape.
never use those colors on any characters I created. And then he's got a ridiculous sort of coiffed like plastic hair that's blonde. Yeah, all right, there he's back, and he's got the two C's on his chest.
As Creative KV says in the chat, I don't think that's hair.
Yeah, it's plastic. Yeah, I know.
Please, Creative, don't. Steve doesn't need your help with his Roddy fantasies.
Yeah.
His Piper escapades.
I can handle it all on my own. Thank you. So where were we? All right.
So yeah, Commander Cash has escaped.
So we're back at the Robo Lab, basically. We were at Madigan's briefly, and she's chewing out Gadget, who's watching more Commander Cash commercials. Now we're at the Robo Lab. Robo asks his lab tech about cartoon law. Which is so stupid. And basically
Robocop is an idiot now.
Basically, he explains that it's like good guys win and bad guys lose, more or less. And then Robocop has a flashback to like he and his son watching a cartoon of something.
Yeah, because the lab tech's like, oh, did you ever watch cartoons or something like that? And then Robocop,
which is not a bad touch to reinforce what's going on in the story here. And then Madigan enters and he scans the cereal box, and it says on there to obey Commander Cash, because no other parent in all of Canada, I mean Detroit, has ever thought to like put the 3D glasses on and to look at the box on their own. But that's...
Yeah, it's like a hidden subliminal message.
Not even all that well hidden. But so now we cut to Madigan visits Atwater, and she basically interrogates him about the hidden messages. And then this is when Atwater really starts hamming it up. He even goes so far as to he Mr. Burns it a couple of times, like doing this little number. And then he calls down this, it was kind of hard to figure out what it was. just like from the ceiling drops these like dual sort of gun-looking things.
Yeah, it's implied it's some kind of weapon that he drops down because he's done with Detective Madigan. He wants her to leave, and he's like, "Oh, I think this
Yeah, hold on, let me
conversation's
do
over."
it. I think this conversation is over. Like just something, yeah, just something ridiculous.
Yeah, he's real like I don't know, like it's so hard to explain. Like he's like unhinged, but in a very
Oh yeah,
cartoony kind
I
of way.
was definitely on board at this point with Atwater and his performance. Uh, so
Same.
then Madigan goes and interviews his assistant, Brittany, who like you see her and why don't you describe? I mean, obviously she's an attractive woman, but she's got like this ridiculous wig, and you kind of wonder why it's there, but it actually and you also even wonder why she's there. You're like, why do we have to have this, the typical sort of sexy assistant who is adding nothing at this point to the story, but she actually comes into play later. Were you at?
Yeah. This is she's reading like a book, right? When when she's introduced, and it's like a romance novel, and the way the camera has it panning, it's almost she's like,
Yeah.
It sounds like she's like having
Yeah,
an
like
orgasm.
man, this must be for the dads who were watching RoboCop the series back then.
Yeah, and the way it's shot for like I would say half of the scene, you only see like one of her hands holding the book, kind of the way they shot it. So I'm like, are they trying to imply that she's like pleasuring herself?
And reading at the same time. I guess that's how you had to do it back in the 1800s.
Because it's a romance novel. She's going,
Right.
she's moaning and whatever, and you can't see one of her hands for a little bit. So
I mean, I expect
Yeah.
that from Silk Stockings Jr., but not RoboCop the series. I mean, come on. So basically,
yeah, I'm more of a Silk Stockings Prime Directives fan.
you mean the
personally.
Canadian-produced TV movies? Oh yeah,
Of
yeah,
Silk Stockings.
those are so good. Although they didn't shoot the two leads that well. They
Yeah,
look
yeah.
really small.
Although very creative uses of squibs in that show.
Jesus. Oh man, I think only us are laughing at this. Okay, all right.
Yeah, if you don't know what a squib is, it's the thing that makes blood shoot out of somebody's chest or whatever when they're shot
a
on
better
TV.
question is, do you know what Silk Stockings is? That's the question.
Yeah, so Silk Stockings was this like sexy, almost like two levels, a level or two below Skinamax in terms of like
Yeah, it's just a sexy
nudity.
cop show that was on USA, basically.
Yeah, it aired late at night, and it was pushing the limits of what you could show on cable back then.
Yeah, it had the edge back then, the cable
So-
edge.
So I'm just saying, you could use squibs a different way. The sexy shit.
All right. So Brittany
All right, we're moving along.
Brittany says that Atwater used to be a chemist, then commander, that's basically the most important thing between their conversation. Then we cut to Commander Cash appearing at another store, and I guess the manager of this store didn't hear about Commander Cash inciting a riot. I mean, maybe we can assume that this is happening during the same day, but Media Break is already talking about it, so why wouldn't he watch it? But anyway, he shows up at a store and tells all the kids once again to take what they want. And then Commander Cash says he's like asking the manager if he has any Eliminator 3000s, and he says that he brought his own. And it's basically this. I remember this toy. Like that was actually on the market. That was like 6 guns that formed that one big one that he put together. Do you remember that commercial?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, and they just painted it basically. But the thing with Commander Cash is that it's real, and he blows a hole in a Commander Cash standee, and then of course RoboCop just magically shows up. A kid falls down, and Commander Cash helps him up, and the store manager brings out his own shotgun. It shoots. He shoots Commander Cash, but luckily he's wearing a vest. What do you think about the actions of the store manager here?
Yeah, this store manager, overly dedicated. You
gotta protect those toys,
I don't
man.
know that. shooting a gun. I mean, he's the most violent person in the entire episode, to be
Right.
frank. He's the only one that like really shoots at someone with a bullet.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was kind of insane because there's a bunch of kids around and he's like firing the shotgun.
I say
Kind of insane.
on brand for RoboCop, though, for sure.
I don't think that we mentioned earlier because it's kind of important to the story that when RoboCop first runs into Commander Cash and Commander Cash, says his diatribe about cartoon law and this and that. Like, I think it happens in the first meeting. RoboCop, like, we see his screen, through his vision, like you do or whatever, and it says that like he's analyzing, I guess, like Commander Cash's the things he's seeing to see if he's telling the truth or not.
Oh yeah.
And it says like comes up like 99% truthful or 100% truthful, something like that. So basically, RoboCop knows that, or at least thinks that Commander Cash is telling the truth about the things he says.
Right. No, good eye there. Good eye. So
Which becomes important later.
Yes, absolutely. So Commander Cash, who was okay because he was wearing a bulletproof vest, tells the kids to stop.
OCP issued.
Yeah, tells the kids to stop RoboCop, so they all like run in front of him. And man, this next scene completely cracked me up. So behind all the kids who are in between Commander Cash and RoboCop, Commander Cash raises up his hands like this and like walks/flies out like Freakazoid from the show Freakazoid.
Yeah.
I laughed so hard when I saw that. Like I'm like, what did you think?
Yeah, it was really funny. So he, like you said, he puts his hands up like he's gonna fly away like Superman, but instead he just walks out away as if he's flying.
I mean, did you watch
Yeah.
Freakazoid back in the day?
No, but I know what you're talking
Because he
about.
used to always do that. Yeah, and I just it was like, wow, we are definitely in the 90s.
And then RoboCop, thigh opens up, pulls out his big gun, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, finally. He shoots out a little. I don't even think we really see anything come out of the gun.
No,
but he
they didn't have the
basically-
money for that.
He tags. He basically like with like an Apple Air tag.
Yeah.
He puts an Apple Air tag on Commander Cash, who pretty comedically is like, like he holds his ass or something.
Yeah, it doesn't bother to take it off. And it's funny because Spider-Man used to do that a lot in the comics. He'd fire a spider tracker if he ran out of web and like couldn't catch up with the guy, and he'd track him later. And that's exactly what happens here. RoboCop tracks Commander Cash to the cleanest warehouse I've ever seen. On the inside, though, there's a lot of sort of weird, I guess it's supposed to be like used carnival equipment, which I feel like is, I don't know, apropos somehow to the story. I don't know. Like, it's supposed to be the stuff that's supposed to be like fun and for kids, and here it is like discarded, laying around in a warehouse, kind of like Commander Cash himself. I wonder if they actually put that much thought into it, but that's how it is. So RoboCop steps into, I don't know the proper term for this trap, but he steps into like a noose basically, and it pulls him up.
Yeah, it's the classic. You stepped into like a rope with that's got like a circle thing, like a noose, and then it lifts him up by the foot. And man, it was violent, like that yank.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
And what I think is
like I got whiplash watching.
Right, and what
that.
I think is funny is then they showed him like when he shot himself down, because RoboCop again finally he gets to shoot real bullets at something. Of course, it's not a human being. He shoots at the rope, and then they basically, and it's a mannequin, you can tell. Like he falls and like hits his head. Like,
oh, I'm sorry they didn't kill someone for you, Steve.
well, I mean, we don't need to see it, is what I'm saying. Like they could have just, and then they could have even had him, and then the next cut is just him pulling himself up or whatever. But anyway.
But yeah, RoboCop lands on top of his head. He comes down at a perfect 90-degree angle.
Yes, it's reminiscent of Owen Hart putting Stunning Steve in that horrible, what was that move? Pile driver.
Yeah, a tombstone pile driver. But I think it was a mannequin the whole time too, from the moment like the noose, because the noose, like it's not, the footage isn't sped up, and it's so violent and quick, and like for you to like yanks like a person up that quickly, like that would fuck him up.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely.
And it would require like a lot of torque, and a lot of so yeah, it was definitely a mannequin from the beginning to the end. And yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. He comes straight down on the top of his bean, and then next cut is him like sitting up like Undertaker style.
Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. So anyway, Commander Cash is all like, he says, "Welcome, welcome, RoboCop." He calls like the warehouse his like lair or fortress of solitude or something like that. And then we quickly cut to Madigan telling the lab tech that Atwater is poisoning the kids with something, but they scan the cereal, but they can't find anything in it. And now we're back. RoboCop is pursuing Commander Cash, and Commander Cash drops like it's got to be 100 sacks of cement on RoboCop and knocks him down.
But the way he like does it, it's like this. The cement is like I didn't think it was cement. I thought it was like sandbags. But it could be cement. Yeah, maybe you're right. But anyways, it's all stacked
As
up
a
really
wall,
high.
yeah.
But like a bookshelf kind of a thing.
That too.
And
Yeah.
basically, he just like tips it over onto RoboCop, but it's like a 30-foot tall bookshelf. And yeah, like you said, it's like a crazy amount of like, bags of cement or sand or whatever it is, and it falls on RoboCop. That his like head is sticking up through it, like he's a damn cartoon.
See, I believe that trap a lot more than the old noose and sling deal, because I mean RoboCop would have seen it. But anyway, it's just,
But this RoboCop moves like super slow
Yes.
compared to
yes,
to the movies.
yes he does. So yeah, and now Commander Cash, he's like basically he confides in RoboCop, and he's like, "You trust me, right? Because of cartoon law." And RoboCop goes, "Cartoon law." And he's like, "Here, this I'm gonna need your spike, RoboCop. This is gonna explain everything better than I ever could." So RoboCop extends his spike, and Roddy Piper.
He sticks it in this beeping box. Because at first I think it's supposed to be implied because the box is like beeping. The box that Commander Cash
You
is
thought it
holding,
was
that
a
it's like
bomb. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's a great little misdirect. It's not a bomb. It's just he likes his. What would you call this device? It's like a portable computer of some sort, I guess, because RoboCop interfaces with it with his Spike terminal, which I love how RoboCop's like Spike terminal, it like has so many uses. It can interface with computers. It can stab people.
In the throat. Yeah.
Yeah, if your dragon dildo is somewhere else, you can use it. I guess I don't know.
You could use it to cut up spam if you're eating it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I wrote down that it was just a hard drive. But in the RoboCop world, yeah, if you build all OCP hard drives are built with the RoboCop Spike, like in the interface, basically. So
yeah.
And the funny thing is that I could believe that, but nobody else, no other, like not Ed 209, not Kane from RoboCop 2, no other robots have that spike. So it's like not very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Come on, you know this.
It's not like a standardized
Yes,
connector,
that's
like a
it.
USB connector or something
Exactly.
like that. Yeah.
It's the RoboCop connector. That's what it is.
But anyways, RoboCop starts fingering this portable hard drive or whatever.
Right, and then we see what he sees, and it's this. It's almost like do you remember motion comics when those were a thing? And
that's exactly what I thought of. Like I used to have a CD-ROM with the Mask motion comic.
Nice.
And that's what it is, where it's like partly animated. Pretty well done though.
Yeah, I really liked the art, and basically it's the backstory of what happened between Atwater and Commander Cash. And Commander Cash's real name is Tex Jones, which I'm pretty sure is like an amalgam of Tex Avery and Chuck Jones, the animators.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I can see that.
Because he himself, I mean, he's basically an animator, but they say that he's a audio video engineer. who and then Atwater shows up and he wants to work with him. He says he's created this undetectable psychotonic liquid, but Tex is a stand-up guy and of course turns him down.
Yeah. Well, we should say what Tex created.
Yeah, that. Oh yeah.
Because
what did he create? Yeah.
Because I think you're confusing what Atwater created with what Tex.
No, I was saying
because what Tex
Atwater created the psychotonic liquid. Yes.
Right. And then Tex had created like a way to basically implant information into somebody's brain with the idea of like, oh, our spies, like I guess our U.S.
Canadian
spies are the good guys here. Yeah, he's like, when we send Gretzky undercover, he'll be able to be up. But he says basically like, our brave spies will be able to like be up to date on all the information that we need them to have, without risking having to like send them like a paper or something, blah blah blah. And that's when Atwater busts in and he's like, hey, I want to use your thing that I don't know how I know about it, but I want to use your thing in combination with my crazy, what was it, the
psychotonic
drug thing or whatever?
Liquid, yes.
Yeah, to control people.
But yeah, Tex, but he turns him down. And so rather than just walking away, this is Atwater we're talking about here, like the craziest, over-the-top, campiest, cartoony supervillain in real life, leaves a grenade in Tex's lab that he just doesn't get to in time. It explodes, but of course he lives. And
the whole building explodes.
Yeah, but of course his face is scarred. It's very similar to the Darkman origin, actually. And so he vowed. And also I should say that Tex Jones, he's the true creator of Commander Cash. Atwater basically steals all of his work, and then he vowed to get revenge, and then basically that is the end of the motion comic. And my question to you,
although we do see like a montage within the comic of Tex like recovering, his whole body is like in a cast,
right.
And you see him working out while his face is still like all bandaged up,
practicing his blow up drills.
Yeah, and Atwater thinks like Tex died.
Yes, he does.
And he doesn't know that Tex this whole time has been taking steroids and
cocaine,
building himself back up.
And becoming the best promo who ever lived. Yeah.
Yes.
So my question to you, Yahel, and this was the first question that popped in my head when this motion comic was done, is like, when did Tex Jones have time to make his own motion comic?
I guess while he was recovering,
Sure.
I know we see him, curling in the motion comic, some dumbbells. So at some point, his arms healed before the rest of his body. So I guess that's when he did it to pass the time.
It's just like, well, I'm gonna have to explain myself to someone eventually, so I'm just gonna go ahead and make a motion comic out of it. That sounds good.
But the thing is, Steve, like, because it's not like fully animated, it's really just like 30 drawings.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, I made my own motion comic for the trailer for Escape to Earth. Kickstarter going on right now. I'll mention it again. Why not?
Yeah.
So it is possible.
And the thing to me that's like really funny about it though is like when he tells Robocop to stick his
spike
robo dildo into the spike. Thank you.
It's called a Robocock. Come on.
Anyways, by the way, so like Robocop doesn't have a penis, but then they make his like way to interface with computers this phallic like thing. Like that's kind of mean.
I mean, I'm sure that's what Paul Verhoeven was thinking when
maybe
yeah.
it might be like some kind of anyway commentary, but who cares? But I just thought it was weird that he was like, okay, Robocop, this motion comic will explain it better than I could, and then the motion comic is just Commander Cash narrating his own story anyway, so he's still explaining it to Robocop anyway.
But the kids would have been bored if there wasn't a little Johnny watching Robocop the series with his dad would have been bored if it was just I think I almost would have preferred like a Roddy Piper monologue, because you realize they only show him briefly with the mask off, like just once.
Yeah. After the comic, the Roddy Piper takes off his mask. or Commander Cash takes off his mask, and Steve, I'm sure tears roll down your face as you saw like half of Roddy Piper's face was disfigured.
I
Uh,
bawled. Yeah.
and then you held your wife's hand, turned your face to her, and as one solitary tear streamed down your face, you said, "I don't care. I love him just the way he is."
You're not wrong, buddy. You're not wrong.
As your wife yelled, "It's our anniversary."
It's not really, but still.
And 2 silk stocking squibs went off. Okay, the end. All right.
Way to bring it back around. All right, let's finish this thing. Come on. So now, all right, we cut to Lab Tech and Madigan can't figure out how the mind control works. Robocop shows up just in time and says, "You just have to add milk." And so, yeah, that was the missing thing, was milk. Like,
Yeah, that was in the comic.
Yeah.
That the ingredient is milk. And we should point out that in the Robo Lab back at OCP, they did like tests on the cereal and all this other stuff.
I mentioned that,
and
yeah.
they couldn't find anything. Oh, did you? Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, basically, yeah, it's a 3-part mind control plan here. You got to have the cereal and the glasses and the commercial, and then you add, I guess that's 4 parts. Then you add the milk, and then you get your mind-controlled kids, which I think you probably don't need that much to control the minds of kids. But, hey, what do I know? I'm just some parent. Anyway, so cut to, we're back at
Steve's like, "I've tried."
it's harder than you think. So at Atwater's office, Commander Cash confronts Atwater. Commander Cash, he body slams him on the desk, which I appreciated. And then Atwater throws an exploding Commander Cash action figure at the real life Commander Cash, which, man, that is the height of like Batman villainy right there. It's like, oh, I just happened to create a real exploding Commander Cash. Woo!
Like this turns into 1960s Batman, right? The only thing missing are the pals.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Oh, 100%. So go ahead.
We also get like Atwater at this point reveals his plan, which is like basically he says, I control these kids now, and you know what? These kids in 10 years, they're gonna be running everything, and you know who'll be running them? Me, Atwater.
It was, the delivery was so great, so over the top. It was awesome.
Like, why doesn't Atwater just skip? Save himself 10 years of waiting and make alcohol. But do this mind control thing with alcohol,
Right.
I don't know.
There you go.
I guess you can't do it with milk. You don't want to put milk in your beer. I suppose.
Ew, that's disgusting. So Robo arrives and tries to arrest Atwater, but he calls down that weird gun thing that we mentioned before, and it shoots tasers, or not really tasers, but electrocuting.
I would say 2 miniature suck plungers that electrocute Robocop.
A suck plunger, huh? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the suck plungers come out. They attach themselves to Robocop, and they're electrocuting him. And then Commander Cash shows up, and with his his gloves are clearly rubber, but he still gets electrocuted anyway as he saves Robocop by pulling the suck plungers off of him. And then Robo calls him a hero. Atwater...
I thought Commander Cash was going to die.
Yeah, me too. But I knew this was for kids. I knew they wouldn't do it. I knew they wouldn't kill him off. In the back of my mind, I knew it. So Atwater tries to escape. Madigan confronts him. And then he takes his assistant, Brittany, hostage. And previously to this, we see that Brittany is consuming the super flakes, and she's also dressed up as Commander Cash's, I guess, sidekick or wife, who is
I think that's what it's
your
supposed to be.
typical Rob Liefeld drawn, like, big boobed Supergirl, basically. and so Atwater tries to run. Robo, I think I missed a part, but anyway, Commander Cash commands Brittany to attack Atwater. He calls her her superhero name. I can't remember what it was, And she does so because she was eating the cereal, so she was under the mind control as well. And I was like, lovely. They found a reason for this person to exist, like in the story.
Yeah.
I was really surprised. And so Atwater tries to run, but Robocop throws a puck at him, basically, that goes past and sticks to the door. It then inflates, like creating a bouncy house, more or less.
Yeah, basically, it creates an airbag in the shape of the doorway. And Atwater, who was running full speed to get away, bounces off of it.
Yes, and then he...
Like, Steve, I will applaud the producers for showing some restraint here and not adding a giant boing sound effect, because I'm sure somebody suggested it.
If this had been like season 8 of Hercules or Xena, that boing sound would have been there. I guarantee you that. So anyway, he bounces back and he falls down. The Commander Cash gives him the old punch to the face. And then Robocop...
And whoa. He punches Atwater, and then Atwater hits the ground and slides like 30 feet across the room from the punch.
Right.
Like, if you punch somebody hard enough to make them like slide across the room, their head would come off of their neck.
Oh, sure.
You know?
Sure.
But of course, he just, like a cartoon, slides down to Robocop's feet.
Absolutely. And and then that is basically the episode. Robo and Commander Cash, they then sort of pose for the cameras, basically. I mean, if you want them to, Yahel, I suppose in your mind they can. But and that is basically Robocop versus Commander Cash. Season 1.
There is one other thing, though. At the very end, when Commander Cash and Robocop kind of, and I can't believe you failed to mention this. You know, they kind of like do their handshake, thing, like, oh, you did a good job. And I can't remember exactly what Commander Cash says to Robocop, but then Robocop's reply is cartoon law.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they have a little moment.
Yes. They brought it back to the cartoon law. Yeah.
Yeah. Something about like, oh, the good guys always win, or you're a great hero. And then Robocop says cartoon law. And then Robocop and Commander Cash, they kind of turn to almost face the camera head on as people start taking pictures of them. And then they're inside a building, and Commander Cash's cape starts flowing in the air.
Because of course it does. Because of it.
There's no wind, but it just starts flowing in the air inside of this building.
I mean, someone could have turned on an air conditioner, I mean...
Dude, oh my god, I fucking died laughing when that happened.
Yeah.
Like, so fucking funny.
And then did you stay around for the credits to hear that weird end credits song?
No,
that's it's weird. It's like Lita Ford and like someone else who like wasn't even popular anymore in the 90s.
Oh yeah, I did catch a little bit of it.
Yeah, apparently there at one point they actually released the soundtrack on CD for Robocop the series. I would love to find one of those in like a 50-cent bin somewhere just to say I have it.
I'm surprised they didn't release it in cone so Robocop could finger bang it. With his metal.
I was interested to see where that was going. Okay.
Yeah, because Cone, and then his thing is like,
you did it, buddy. Congratulations. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready to render your verdict on RoboCop the series, episode 14?
I am. I do want to say hello to Sasquatch in Time.
Hey, yeah. Where's that guy been? Lost in time, I'd say. But welcome back.
Rather than being grateful for you being here with us, Steve is mad.
I'm grateful. I'm just wondering where you've been. We haven't seen you in so long. Not even on TikTok.
Steve has some questions after the show. Stick around.
All right. Let's do this thing.
Remember how rated? That's the question.
All right, Yahel Velasquez Esquire, defender of cartoon law. Do you think that RoboCop the series, episode 14, RoboCop versus Commander Cash, should be remembered for all of human history or tossed into the black robo-void of obscurity, never to be heard from again?
This is a very easy remembered for me. Like I said earlier, this is basically like RoboCop in the vein of 1960s Adam West Batman. and it really works. You can really tell that they have to go out of their way to find ways for RoboCop to not hurt people. And I think there's one of two ways you can go about that. Is you can kind of like try and hide the violence, or just not do it and be campy and silly. And because everybody commits to it, it really works. And I don't know how the rest of the RoboCop series is. I can only imagine like how difficult it was to do 23 episodes where RoboCop can't really be RoboCop.
Right.
But for this episode, man, it really, really works. The guy that plays Atwater, Barry Flatman, is incredible. Like he is so over the top. There's like lots of little things he does in his performance that we didn't go into, just faces he makes. He does like some real funny physical comedy. And we didn't mention it, but if you want to watch this episode, you can watch this. You can watch like I think every piece of RoboCop live action media right now for free on Tubi.
Yes, you can.
And this is on Tubi. This is episode 13. On some places it's episode 14.
Right.
I think it's because like there's like an hour and a half episode that's divided into 2 episodes in some places, but not in others.
Right.
But anyway, Steve, what say you?
Yeah, I was pretty sure I was not going to like this, like I said, because I've had a hard time trying to rewatch the pilot. But man, this was so over the top and campy. I loved it as well.
And Roddy's in it.
Sure. I mean, he did such a great job. Everyone committed so hard that it's kind of hard not to like it, even if you think the idea of RoboCop like not shooting dudes in the dick is hard to swallow. Ugh, that's a horrible sentence.
Interesting.
It's a
insert silk stocking squid.
It's still like RoboCop kind of ends up coming off the most boring character because everyone else is so over the top that it's hilarious. And this is something that I could actually watch with my son, where, the other movies, it's going to be a few years before I can show him that stuff. I mean, aside from RoboCop 3, but we don't need to mention that one. But yeah, I loved it. Loved the over-the-top performances. And yeah, it felt like they really spent some money on this. Too bad they couldn't get a second season. From what I was reading, they just didn't have the viewing numbers at the time, so it just went away.
I think this would have been hard to do. I mean, I'm shocked that they even did 20-something episodes because with the restrictions, I would imagine. I do wish they would have kept going because I would imagine that by season 4, maybe even sooner, they'd have to go like so campy and so like over the top. Like we would get like Family Matters level of plots where like it's RoboCop in space, RoboCop made a sexy clone of himself, like Steve Arkell and all that stuff.
Oh man, that would be hilarious. Oh man, this is gold, Yahel. You're just giving it away over here on the internet.
You're right. I mean,
yeah, so let me go ahead. So obviously, RoboCop, the series, episode 14 or 13, You Shall Be Remembered.
In accordance to Obscurity Now, the most important streaming YouTube podcast in all of the internet, you shall be remembered. Yes. Good show. Good show.
All right. So I hope you guys agree. Let us know what you think. But real quick, we've got a question here from Good Form, a.k.a. Rob, the only other reptilian media employee. Do you think the best way to bring back a RoboCop production would be in the form of adult animation like Invincible? Oh, man, I think that's a great idea. I don't know. That sounds like dead on. I'm surprised they haven't tried that yet. I guess.
I don't know. I think RoboCop making a sexy clone of himself like Steve Urkel did in Family Matters might be the best way to go.
Yeah, I mean, or you could do that. But I mean, I think right now it sounds like the game is probably the thing that's going to reignite any interest in RoboCop. It sounds like it's doing well. I was hoping it was going to be on sale from Steam, but I went and checked and it is not, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, because it's doing so well, we're probably not going to see a sale on it for a little bit. But yeah, I'm sure within 6 months or so, we'll see it come down $20 or so. Because yeah, I'm kind of holding off on getting it myself too till it goes on sale. But I do know a few people that have played it, and yeah, they all really enjoyed it. And Steve, I finally watched the first episode of Invincible.
Oh yeah, what'd you think?
As you've been after me for about 4 years to watch. It was good. I liked it, but I watched it like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I only watched the first episode just because I've got so many other things I'm kind of watching. I'm like, let me finish a few things.
I hear you, but I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I'm having a hard time getting through the second season. The writing, I feel like, has taken a hit, but the first season is great. You should stick with it, buddy. You should stick with it.
Oh, okay. Well, a friend of mine that worked on, he did like a CG model before I started doing them for my own videos. He did my X-Band 3D model, and he actually worked on season 2 of Invincible.
Well, what did
I'll let him know you
I
hate him.
love Invincible season 2. Do you think he would come onto the show? Maybe we can chat with him.
Well, he worked like on the visuals.
Yeah, I mean that would still be cool. Or I mean, if he's, we'll talk about it off air.
Yeah.
But
he's worked on a bunch of stuff.
What's that?
He's worked on a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
like
that
Star
sounds like
Wars
a guy we should
movies
definitely
and
talk to. I mean, I'm sure he's got to be into some weird shit like Silk Stockings Jr. Don't you think? Something that doesn't even exist.
Hey Yoshi, why don't you come on my what's his name? Why don't you come on my podcast and destroy your professional career?
Hey, we've had a few guests and everything turned out okay for them. I mean, they're employed, we're not. I mean, so. All right, what's this? A way to bring Robocop back is with sock puppets, Robo-sock, and the stain removers. Come on, it works. Can you tell me I'm doing laundry right now? Hey, it makes me feel good that we're helping you get your laundry clean. Yeah. But hey, I've got a update on Rob Liefeld, if you want to hear it, since we mentioned him earlier.
Oh,
yeah.
Sure.
All right, so a couple weeks back, it might even be a month now, I found this great Facebook group, and it's called Obscure Superhero Characters, if I'm remembering correctly. So, I mean, it's definitely the group for me. Every other day, they're posting the Badger or the Ultraverse, or and sometimes they actually have people that I've never heard of posted in there. So, for a couple weeks there, everything was going great. And then one day, a guy shows up, and he's like, hey, I love Rob Liefeld, and you should too. So, of course, that ignited a fury in the group. And, like, everyone just started, either they were for him or against him. Like, everyone was talking about old Liefeld, as they do. And then, I swear, 2 to 3 days later, who shows up in the goddamn chat room but Rob Liefeld himself?
He's like Candyman.
He is! Or Beetlejuice. If you say his name enough, he'll show up. So, Rob Liefeld. And yeah, he started showing up, posting his own obscure characters into the chat room. And he was like, ha, I'm Rob Liefeld. I see you guys were talking about me, like, more or less. And I'm just like, what is this guy doing with his free time? Like, if I had as much money as he does, I wouldn't be hanging out trying to, I don't know, chat it up on Facebook about people talking about me and stuff. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that, like, he's going on Facebook and the search field, putting in his name and just, filtering posts and seeing what's new.
Well, I'm hoping he checked out our episode on Youngblood then. But I mean, I posted it in, and that's the thing, is that I'm already in a Rob Liefeld Facebook group that he made himself. Like, I didn't even realize that he had made it, which we've already discussed in past episodes. So why does he have to follow me to this other one? I just wanted to be in a Facebook group that's Rob Liefeld free.
You think he's following you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Watch out. He's coming after you next, Wrestling with Gaming. All right, so that's enough delusion for one day. Thanks, everybody in the chat. And if you found us through the Robocop Facebook group, which is Rob Liefeld free currently, of course, since I'm already talking about him, he's probably going to show up in there. Thanks so much for checking us out. Please subscribe, like, and tell your friends One of these days, we're going to talk about Superforce, that Robocop ripoff. So, hey, that's something to look forward to, right?
Yeah, sure. I can't wait. I've never heard of
And
this.
to everyone else, the upcoming month will all be Christmas-related stuff. We'll have a list on Twitter and Instagram soon enough. Anything else, Yahel, before we sign off?
Nope, I am good.
And all right, make sure you check out the Escape to Earth Kickstarter, which the promo is incoming now, and we will see you next Sunday as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now. See you next week.
Seen it. Hated it. It was okay, I guess. Better in the 90s. Seen it. There's nothing I like on TV anymore. I'm done with movies and television. I'm gonna go old school. Read a good book. What the?
Rob, you don't want that. You at least want something with pictures, don't you?
Do I?
Well, then you should try comic books, especially Escape to Earth, issue 1.
Whoa. It does have pictures in it. And cool artwork, too. And drawings. And coloring. And dinosaurs. Whoa. It kind of reminds me of that movie franchise, Jurassic World. Starring Chris. That was awesome. But it's so short, I finished it so fast.
Rob, you idiot. Don't you know how comic books work? There's already a second issue, and a third one is on the way at Kickstarter.
Get out of town!
It's true. In fact, you can go to Kickstarter right now and buy copies 1 and 2 and support issue 3.
And how? So I guess I'll go on Kickstarter right now because I want to see what happens in part 3. I should probably read part 2 first, though.
You should buy multiple copies of both parts.
Oh. Okay.
The Kickstarter ends December 1st, so you can expect to get your books by March 2024.
Whoa, that's one of my favorite months of the year.
Mine too!
What? But what if I'm a weirdo who likes to read digital comics?
Don't worry, we have a digital catch-up tier as well.
Oh. So what actually happens in this book? I only looked at the pictures.
Well, it's about an intergalactic thief who falls to Earth and has to team up with a woman who can control dinosaurs with her mind.
Whoa, that's pretty cool. It's just the story I was looking for! Wow, that was great. I can't wait for issues 2 and 3 to arrive in the mail by March 2024. In the meantime, I have some books to burn. They mean nothing to me now.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links. If that's what you're into, I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.